We're here again.
If you're looking to do the good old asshole soft shoe shuffle, you can do so with this groovin' tune and a creaky chair.
Welcome to Night Vale.
Live from the Liar's Lair, it's the Disinformed podcast. Let's see if we can do this right this time, kids. How about, I'm Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
If I could play you kids like they're playing these keys and just tickle the ivories with your fucking faces. That's a hard F just right out here. We're getting that adult rating today, kids.
Woo!
What are we going to talk about today, John?
Today we are going to harbor our inner Oswaldo Mowbray. And we're going to talk about frontier justice.
Oh my dear Lord.
Buckle up, get some Yee-Haw Juice, and I'm not talking about cum. Nope, that doesn't track with anybody else. Okay. One of my favorite comedians still that I've mentioned multiple times, Shane Smith, tweeted out that he refers to his cum as Yee-Haw Juice, and it's ruined my life. I'm certain it's changed my wife's life as well.
It's only Yee-Haw Juice when you're fucking your cousin. I think that's the only way that tracks.
Roll Tide.
So, we call that country time down where I'm from.
Yeah. I was watching Hateful Eight when we started looking at topics, and it was when they did the extended cut.
And today is a no hat day.
It is no hat day.
It's a no hat day.
And I don't know why, but I always loved the monologue about frontier justice at the beginning of that movie. So when we're watching the extended cut, I figured I'd look it up. And there's not that much on it, but there was something. There's little branches of it that are pretty cool, but not like a cut and dry Wikipedia article that I could just look up an hour before we did. But that's kind of what I did anyway. We're just going to go and keep that on brand.
Yeah.
But I want to start it off by having you, Shane, from memory, tell me the Frontier Justice monologue from Hateful Eight.
Good luck with that.
You're better at recall than I am.
I am, but I mean, that is not something that I'm going to recall at this point at all.
Not with that attitude.
Well, I couldn't find the exact quote that I wanted, but I did find a quote from Oswaldo Mowbray.
Oswaldo Mowbray.
Michael, have you seen Hateful Eight or no?
No.
God damn it.
Are we actually getting into the topic? Because I mean, I had a little bit of banter here.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. Well, then I'll save the quote, and you can banter away.
Just fucking with the format here.
I just got excited to just barrel through my very well prepared presentation.
So this podcast essentially is going to be like your intercourse, which was, I thought you were just going to put the tip in a little bit and play around, and you're finished already.
It's mainly like, oh, you're going to sleep in 5 minutes?
Plenty of
Can we do it in the morning instead?
Yes. Oh, my Lord. Because I don't want to have to wash the shame off of me before I do this. No, I was going to ask, since we're all on a podcast right now, and, this is obviously topical, what are the podcasts that y'all are listening to these days? What's tickling the ivories in your ears?
I am always just a last podcast on the left goon now, for the popular ones. And then Freaky Geeks was my main side one, but there is such juicy drama that happened on there, and I don't think I've listened to an episode in 5 weeks. I still support them on Patreon, but honestly, I've fallen into just listening to audiobooks instead of podcasts lately.
I mean, technically you're reading it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doubling down because I have, Michael and I are reading the same book now, actually 2 books in a row.
Mm-hmm.
We read Recursion by Blake Crouch.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Is what we just finished, and then Now We're on the Stand by Stephen King. Mm-hmm. My first time reading it, his first time reading a King book.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But I realize I do a lot where I'm driving around or I'm walking around and I have my headphones on and I can focus. So I've been just hitting Libby, the overdrive through your
public library.
Your public library where you can get more than just books, Shane.
Yes, you can.
Whoa!
Support your local public libraries, please.
But yeah, I think I've almost hit a book a week, if not more, for about 2 months. Ever since we recorded the 2 singles with our band. I've been
Which
listening
is
to an audio.
obviously referenceable to everybody else except
they
you and
know
I.
that. Sorry. So
Sidebar.
that was the long answer. So
Okay.
a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
Last pod when I think of a topic and see if they've covered it, which most of the time they have.
Okay. Miguel?
So I primarily listen to a podcast called Hello Internet. It's been going for, I guess, 5 years. They're both YouTube celebrities.
Okay.
One person does like a number sort of YouTube channel. He actually does a lot of them. His name is Brady Heron. He also has another podcast where his whole podcast, I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, which is great, for this. But the whole idea is that he pitches podcast ideas to his co-host, which is great. But Hello Internet, they just talk about like what's going on in the news, do a lot of references to YouTube culture because they're both YouTubers.
Okay.
They're both educational YouTubers. Those are the main ones I listen to. I also listen to a productivity podcast called Cortex, which is also hosted by the other guy that does Hello Internet. His name is CGP Grey. Those are primarily the ones I listen to. I haven't really touched any of them in a while as well, a couple weeks, just because I haven't really found a time to listen to it. Most of my car rides are like 5 minutes at a time, so.
And they're not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm shaking my head at you poor podcast supporters right now.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you?
Terrible. I am a huge goon for the Magnus Archives,
What is
which
that? Oh, you
is
tried to get me.
yeah, it's a
pitch that.
horror-themed podcast where it's essentially a how to put this properly. So it is an institute in England. Put it in pussy. It's an institute in England that collects statements about incidents with paranormal activity. So anything that's sort of outside of normative behavior. And it starts to focus on particular themes revolving around entities as you go along. They're almost 200 episodes in. It's bloody fantastic.
Okay.
Love it to death. And I also, of course, love Welcome to Night Vale, as we all do.
Yeah, I didn't mention, but I figured I'd mentioned in some way earlier.
We can fold it in. We'll leaven it slightly. And I just finished a quick, 6-episode podcast called The Man in the Window from Wondery. It details the Golden State Killer,
Oh, I
which
would
is who
love
Patton
to,
Oswalt's wife was covering, and she actually coined the name
Yep.
Golden State Killer.
She did.
So it's interesting. It's depraved, as you would expect. But
Oh, yeah, that was one of the audiobooks I listened to, was
Yeah.
I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara.
Mhm.
And, yeah, it's heavy.
yeah, it's
stuff.
not really something that you listen to if you want to get brought up. But, it's a fun podcast.
It's also not
so.
something you want to listen to, right before you get home after being at work all day wondering, has someone mapped out my house?
And your
everything
daily
that I
routine.
do. Yeah, and also, do you know what he ended up being like after they caught him? One, do you know how they caught him?
Nope.
Or you do
Yes.
now. Basically, crudely, through 21andMe, right?
Oh, that guy.
yeah,
That was recently caught, in the last year or so.
Yeah, but
something like that, right?
they were
Okay.
wondering, what kind of, who it could be that could have tactically do everything, and it ended up he was a fucking police officer
Mhm.
this
Oh.
entire time.
And actually, they get into the detail of how they actually found him, which is even funnier. So, yeah, listen to the podcast. Check it out.
I'll check that out for sure.
Because they located him through his former fiancée.
Oh, bitches ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my Lord. Wow. Got that rating again. So, okay, well, that was a fun little dalliance. That was
Just
fun.
because you reminded me,
Ah.
there's a really awesome one, if you want to get another depraved one,
Mm.
but you want to go into the cult side of things,
Ooh.
Heaven's Gate. That's all you have to type. It's I think it's a 9 or 10 episode, one and like a one hitter,
Okay.
just deep dive into Heaven's Gate, and it is.
Weren't they the cult that, killed themselves in California or something like that? It wasn't the Kool-Aid. That's Jonestown. I know a lot about Jonestown.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Their website is still up, as far as I'm aware.
Well, thank
It
God
is.
for
Yes.
It is. Okay, so now can I?
that. I mean, yes,
Can
now,
I
give
do
me
the-
the Mowbray
Okay, so on the topic of justice.
on the topic of change.
Yeehaw.
Yes. So Oswaldo Mowbray says, the man who pulls the lever that breaks your neck will be a dispassionate man, and that dispassion is the very essence of justice. For justice delivered without dispassion is always in danger of not being justice. Which, Quentin Tarantino is just a motherfucking boss. Because that is just such sharp dialogue, and that's a 1,000th of what's in that movie alone.
Oh, yeah.
And my unpopular opinion with Tarantino fans is that is probably my favorite Tarantino movie.
Okay.
Okay.
It is the slowest by far. I mean, I think Once Upon a Time might be almost as slow.
Yeah.
It's just a little more lively because you have footholds. Like, old school Hollywood's a little more easy to hang on to without as much content happening than
earlier Tarantino films really are kind of like the young man sex of they're so frantic. And they're constantly, it's a barrage of diving in and out of, like, plot lines and characters and things. So he started to slow down and take his time as he's gotten older. Django has a nice, deliberate kind of feel to it. I love the opening sequence of just, finding him in the woods, stalking through everything. And if there are any astronomy aficionados amongst you, the North Star is that one.
Yeah.
Ta-ta.
So what we're going to do, again, like I was trying to preface, that there's not a lot... in fact, I'm on the Wikipedia article right now for Frontier Justice, and it's a bunch of see alsos.
Oh, good.
Outside of the definition. There's an example, and the example that's listed is what motivated a majority of what I'm going to cover through. But so, the home team, the play-alongs, Frontier Justice on Wikipedia. So, frontier justice is extrajudicial punishment that is motivated by the non-existence of law and order or dissatisfaction with justice. The phrase can also be used to describe a prejudiced judge. Lynching and gunfighting are considered forms of frontier justice. So I'd say, like, maybe, I don't know if it's one of the examples, but it almost sounds like vigilantism to me. It's like the Batman kind of like, well, you didn't catch my parents' killer, and if I catch them first before you do, then I'm not going to turn them over to you. I'm going to kill them.
And there's no due process involved,
No.
which, that's ultimately the major sort of argument anyone's going to have against it is, you're just diving in because your blood's up.
Yeah, which is... I think where the context in the Hateful Eight comes from is they're transporting a killer, and he wants to keep his bounty alive. So he's trying... Oswaldo Mowbray, he's the
fiddly hands, yes.
Fiddly hands, he's the executioner.
Yes.
Yeah, he's the executioner.
The hangman.
So they're waiting, they're in the middle of a snowstorm waiting to get to the next town so that they can try her and kill her fairly. So he's trying to dissuade people from... essentially taking her out or killing her in the middle of the night while they're trying to wait out the storm. But anyway, so one of the examples that came up is local history. It's Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday.
Oh, my Lord.
Tracked and killed 4 cowboys said to be responsible for Morgan Earp's death, which would later become known as the Earp Vendetta Ride.
Yes, and anyone who has seen the glorious Wyatt Earp film or Tombstone will see that depicted.
Yes. So we're going to go through a little bit of Earp Vendetta Ride.
Oh my goodness.
So it's frontier justice as it relates to an actual example that they gave on the Wikipedia. So again, if you're playing at home, you can just click the link to Earp Vendetta Ride and you'll be right here with me.
We'll follow along.
You said I didn't
down.
prep. I have 1, 2, 3,
I have
4.
hyperlinks.
I have 5 tabs open on my
all the time.
right now.
Man.
If there are any Wikipedia aficionados amongst you.
6 if you're counting the Google Doc that we all share.
6 tabs.
All right. So the Earp Vendetta Ride was a deadly search by a federal posse led by Deputy U.S. Marshal Wyatt Earp for a loose confederation of outlaw cowboys they believed had ambushed his brother Virgil and Morgan Earp, maiming the former and killing the latter. Latter.
We'll
We are
discuss
the
that
latter.
It's a ladder later.
Yeah.
Jacob's
Ladder.
ladder.
The 2 Earp brothers have been attacked in retaliation for the deaths of 3 of the cowboys in the gunfight at the OK Corral on October 26, 1881. So we'll go ahead and just revisit the gunfight at the OK Corral.
I actually, when we get through the end of this as well, I have something that I can actually add into here from my own familial history, if you can believe it or not.
Okay, I'm here for it.
So it's very exciting.
Backstory.
All right. So now we're on to tab 3, guys.
All the tabs.
Oh, wow. Blowing through it.
Alt tab.
So the gunfight at the OK Corral was a 30-second shootout between lawmen and members of a loosely organized group of outlaws called the Cowboys that took place at about 3 p.m. on Wednesday in 1881 in Tombstone, Arizona. Tombstone now has one of the best breweries.
I know. I need to go there.
The only problem about going to Tombstone is that you have to go to Tombstone.
Yeah.
And if you've been there once, you've been there once. I'm sorry if I'm making anybody upset by saying that, but it's, 4 hours south, and it's just, I don't know.
You know what I want
And
on
also,
my
you have to go through
tombstone?
Tucson.
I like pepperoni and cheese on my tombstone. So
I can make that happen.
Pizza.
Oh, Jesus, it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Well, so that the shootout is generally regarded as one of the most famous shootouts in the history of the American Wild West. It was the result of a long simmering feud with cowboys Billy Claiborne, Ike and Billy Clayton, and Tom and Frank McLaury on one side, and town marshal Virgil Earp, special policeman Morgan Earp, special policeman Wyatt Earp, and temporary policeman, he was in, Doc Holliday on the other side. I was trying to, what is it, Val Kilmer?
Val Kilmer, yes.
I was going to throw him in there, but...
That's Latin, dog.
You're a daisy if you do. So, Billy Clayton and both McLaury brothers were killed. Ike Clayton, Billy Claiborne, and Wes Fuller ran from the fight like little bitches. It says it right in the article, guys.
Well done. Okay.
I don't know. Does it really say like little bitches?
No, it doesn't. See, that wasn't my
that's
lie.
a lie.
I was also going to say 30 seconds of time is...
Actually, yeah, no, you make a good point. Like, when it says... It took place at about 3. It's like 3 plus or minus a couple minutes, but, they still were like, wait, there's a shootout. Someone hit a stopwatch.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Gunfights are not, long drawn-out affairs in the Old West, though.
If I recall, that it does kind of go into more detail about it, or at least it should.
Does it break it down to a second by second? Like,
have you ever played Call of Duty?
Do you
know, like, online? Have you ever seen a kill cam? On any game, like first-person
They have
shooter?
a kill cam of OK Corral?
They do.
Dude, technology, man.
It's season 1 of Westworld.
Well played.
God damn!
Which is where we actually pulled the music at the beginning of this episode, apparently.
Let's see here.
Now... Oh, you found your place?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Virgil, Morgan, and Doc Holliday were wounded, but Wyatt Earp was unharmed. Wyatt is often erroneously regarded as a central figure in the shootout, although his brother Virgil was Tombstone City Marshal and Deputy U.S. Marshal that day, and had far more experience as a sheriff, constable, marshal, and soldier in combat. That sounds just like after everything that I've heard, I didn't know that. And then hearing that, like, it just basically just sounds like a bitch slap to the ghost of Wyatt Earp. It's like, you fucking poser.
Well, and
you don't know nothing.
He was the older brother, and I mean, their father was a lawman as well, as I remember, so, yeah, it's kind of a long line. You could have said that about his dad, too. Far more experienced lawman than Wyatt Earp, until he wasn't.
Well, I mean, I only recently, I think, out of, like, reading random things, the only other, like, experience that I have with it, outside of just loving the idea of old Wild West tales, is actually seeing Tombstone for the first time. And if I remember, like, in the beginning of Tombstone, like, the movie, there's not a lot of context to why you should give a shit about Wyatt Earp. They're just like, oh, he's a bad motherfucker, and this is his posse, and they're holed up now in Tombstone, and that's all that matters. And he doesn't take no nonsense from nobody, and he's gonna smack that one guy. Oh, he's gonna smack Billy Bob Thornton.
Just backhand him right in the face.
He's gonna smack Billy Bob Thornton so hard he's gonna be a villain for the rest of his acting career. Well, so again,
he'd like to bust his jaw. That's why he looks that way.
Oh my God. The shootout has come to represent a period of the American Old West when the frontier was virtually an open range for outlaws, largely unopposed by law enforcement officers who were spread thin over vast territories. It was not well known to the American public until 1931, when Stuart Lake published the initially well-received biography, Wyatt Earp, Frontier Marshal, 2 years after Earp's death. The book was the basis for the 1946 film My Darling Clementine and the 1957 film Gunfight at the OK Corral, which also had some influence on Gone with the Wind, and after which the shootout became known by that name, the Gunfight at the OK Corral. Since then, the conflict has been portrayed with varying degrees of accuracy in numerous Western films and books, and has become an archetype for much of the popular imagery associated with the Old West. Which is true, because it's not around the same time. I'm not gonna be that accurate with it, but the only other thing that I was thinking about Old West-wise, I was thinking like almost like frontiering. because I read The Indifferent Stars Above, which details the Donner Party's travels. And that was a really cool looking in view because I had never thought about actual travel like that outside. And it's kind of on the tail end. And they talk about once they're leaving like the Midwest as it was then, like getting to California, like those stretches where just like, okay, so like 30 people died. Oh, one person got murdered. We had to take care of him ourselves. Oh, okay.
It's treacherous.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that, on a total sidebar, is one of the Remans? Here's my stroke for the episode. One of the reasons polygamy actually began within the Mormon Church is you had the patriarch of a family, as they were crossing to get over into Utah, would die, and their family would essentially have no one to care for them. So, under the auspices of saying, I take responsibility for that family, you would then marry the other woman and have multiple wives. And it was not done in this licentious sort of lecherous, I'm going to bang everything that moves. It was, this family is probably going to wither and die if they don't have someone who's assisting them or trying to take care of them. And so they said, okay, well, we'll write this into the church that you can have multiple wives and have a larger scale family so you can all take care of each other.
Yeah.
So interesting the way history kind of gets reinterpreted or rewritten.
Yeah. It's so cool to go back that far and just see those trails. All right. Well, despite its name, the gunfight did not take place within or next to the OK Corral, which fronted Allen Street and had a rear entrance lined with horses stalls on Fremont Street. The shootout actually took place in a narrow lot on the side of C.S. Fly's photographic studio on Fremont Street, 6 doors west of the OK Corral's rear entrance. Some members of the two opposing parties were initially only about 6 feet apart. About 30 shots were fired in 30 seconds. Ike Clayton, subsequently filed murder charges against the Earps and Doc Holliday. After a 30-day preliminary hearing and a brief stint in jail, the lawmen were shown to have acted within the law. It's the stop breaking the law, asshole!
Yes.
So this is going to segue back to talking about the Vendetta ride.
Fun.
Which again, this basically was just a jumping off point just to talk about Val Kilmer. So,
well, hey, who doesn't love Val Kilmer?
The gunfight wasn't the end of the conflict. On December 28th of 1881, Virgil Earp was ambushed and maimed in a murder attempt by the Cowboys. On March 18th of 82, a cowboy fired from a dark alley through the glass door of a Campbell and Hatchett saloon and billiard parlor, killing Morgan Earp. The suspects in both incidents furnished alibis supplied by other cowboys and were not indicted. Wyatt Earp, newly appointed as Deputy U.S. Marshal, then took matters into his own hands in a personal vendetta.
Like you do.
Wait, you said both Earp brothers were killed in separate events?
They actually the attack was intended to coincide, so they found out where everybody was at the same time, and they all then said, "Okay, we're all going to go shoot them."
Tombstone.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Obviously, you've not seen the film.
No, I haven't.
But yes, they
We're gonna
essentially
start a
just
separate
coordinated a hit.
podcast called "What Has Michael Seen?" and it's a very, very short podcast.
I thought
It's
you
going to
and
be
I
one
were...
episode. It's going to be one word. Nothing.
I think you and I were going to start another podcast called We Watched Tombstone 872 Times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it.
Honestly, though, I've only watched it once, but it took me 2 weeks to watch it because I was watching it in like 20-minute increments because I was really busy, and I wanted to finally watch it. Because I'd seen the middle, I'd seen the end, I'd seen the beginning, but I'd never seen it back to front, so then I just treated it like an episodic thing.
Oh, it's so good. Michael Biehn is so fun as well. It just... Johnny Ringo.
Who's that?
I'm going to strangle you across this room. Vader strangle. Force choke.
Well, deal with me. We're almost there.
Are we?
So on March 20th, 2 days after Morgan's murder, Wyatt, his brothers Warren and James, Doc Holliday, and 2 other deputies were escorting Virgil and his wife Allie to a California-bound train in Tucson. They learned that suspects Ike Clayton and Frank Stillwell were already waiting there. After Virgil, Allie, and James boarded the train, Wyatt spotted 2 men near the train that he thought were Clayton and Stillwell. He and several men chased down and killed Stillwell, but lost the other. After Stillwell's body was found the next morning, the Tucson Justice of the Peace issued arrest warrants for the 5 lawmen suspected of the extrajudicial, see also frontier justice murder. When the men returned to Tombstone, Sheriff Johnny Bennon had received a telegram notifying him of the Tucson warrants and attempted to detain the 5 members of Earp's federal posse named in the warrants, but they ignored him.
That's the spirit.
Posse!
Still carrying arrest warrants for Curly Bill, Brosius, and others, they left Tombstone to pursue further cowboys implicated in the attacks. They just went full fucking, like, John Wick. Or fucking, like, Rambo, just... No, I guess Rambo doesn't track, but...
Well, the context also as well, for those who have watched Tombstone 200 times, the intro to the film is them talking about the cowboys and how they were kind of a plague because they were unchecked. They were crossing state lines. They were, really kind of like just laying siege to the West.
I guess the reason that I'm bringing Batman into it so many times is because it reminds me of in Dark Knight, when Batman's talking about, or how they're implying that Batman doesn't have jurisdictional bounds. So he can go to, Hong Kong and get the guy to bring him back.
No extradition, yes.
Yeah. That's kind of like the whole stint there.
Yeah. So when they're pursuing them, do you think that they were put in the boots to the horse in order to, quickly get across a large section?
I don't think.
Of frontier plains? The reason I ask is we actually have our sponsor for today, Boils and Ghouls, and we're super excited for this. I've got to tell you, because I was personally not exposed to this product prior to now, but I am super glad to have it. And it's Bootbox is our current sponsor. And are you ready for this? Because it's going to get fantastic. Have you heard of Loot Crate? Bark Box, These things are all the rage. Subscription boxes are the rage, but the creators of Bootbox were interested in providing service that transcended the fun and superficial, and offers something to edify and enrich their subscribers' lives. So what is Bootbox, you say? Fanciful Western wear for your feet? Oh, no. Bootbox is the first monthly subscription service intended to help promote general gastrointestinal and rectal health. Bootbox's patented and handcrafted products will be a delight to your derriere with each and every delivery, making sure you don't have a shitty day that you can't wipe away. From our patented poop pepper peels that help to strengthen and cultivate your colon's mucin and microbial defenses, as well as our patented shit ticket wet wipes that keep your pucker looking clean and pristine, Bootbox offers an array of digestive and cleaning aids to ensure your colon and rectal care is top-notch without the muss and fuss of heading to the store and guessing what will keep you regular. As a special treat for Disinformed listeners, if you visit poopshoot.com and enter the offer code IDIOT at checkout, you will get 15% off your monthly Bootbox subscription. I'm going to repeat that. It is going to be poopshoot.com. Enter the offer code IDIOT, and you will get 15% off your monthly Bootbox subscription. I love it. This is my personal endorsement here. I have never been so clean rectally after, my first Bootbox box.
It kind of just sounds like a bidet with extra steps.
Yeah. Basically, but I'm telling you, you take a couple pills in the morning, you use the shit ticket wipes, and you are clean and regular down there.
Okay.
I'm just telling you. Yeah. It's fantastic.
Report back, listeners, and let's see what you feel about it.
Yeah, tell us what you think about it. Because, honestly, there's no better way to care for your poop shoot. Bootbox. Quit crapping on your colon.
Thank you, Ollie. That was a very perfectly placed sponsorship because that's basically where.
You gotta tell us where he tracked everybody down.
No, that's essentially where that kind of leads. Is that they just kind of leave it open ended. On that, they say that the federal posse in Tombstone started to come after tried to come after the Earp gang, but they evaded. And then the Earp gang kind of dwindled down a little bit. And then just headed to New Mexico is how that Wikipedia article ends.
Okay, like you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was loose form frontier justice with one example and more Batman than I expected to vomit.
And plenty of Tarantino just
a lot of Tarantino.
In.
I guess topical because the movie came out, or the new Tarantino came out recently, which
I haven't seen it yet. You haven't seen
anything.
Just assume I haven't seen shit. Yeah.
Which is appropriate because your Bootbox is heading your way. You're gonna see shit, sir.
No, it was very good. It was very good. So Yeah, I mean, that's what I got on Frontier
Okay,
Justice.
well, coincidentally, you not knowing this, because I don't think we've ever actually had this conversation.
No.
My family is a part of the that helped to settle this glorious state. I say that now, and we're gonna because you guys don't need to know my fucking last name. But coincidentally.
Yeah.
You can do some research, and the first governor of the state is a member of my family, etc., etc. So there were large swaths of the Arizona countryside that my family kind of helped populate and settle and establish. In the small town of St. John's, there was an incident that occurred called the Shootout at the Barth Hotel. The reason being is that one of my great-great-great-great-grandfathers was prone to cutting off any cattle rustler's ears if he caught them on his property.
Goddamn.
So the first time he caught you, he would cut off your right ear. If you came back, he would cut off your left ear. If you came back again, he would kill you. So it was an easy way to earmark anybody who came on the property, and he knew that if you were gonna, come in and steal some horses, he'd already caught you once.
Yeah.
He wore those ears on his belt loops. So
very
badass.
pre-Ed Gein of him.
Yes, it's also, if you've seen Universal Soldier, I can't hear you. So this just gives you an indication of the craze that's in my bloodlines. But
I was gonna say this is very just on brand for
the hoo-hoos. So in any event, my grandfather, some of his hired hands, and a couple of his children were all hanging out, having a drink at the Barth Hotel. A collection of these cattle rustlers, we can even call them cowboys for the sake of this. There's a different name that was attached here, and I'm just going to save it because it's not appropriate. But they came to take a bit of revenge for their ears having been revoked from them, and proceeded to have a shootout. There were 25 individuals, I think, I'm estimating the number, who began to open fire on the hotel. So my grandfather and company began to return fire. After about 15 minutes, there were 10 men outside, and all 6 of my family were still standing.
Probably because the men outside couldn't hear the bullets coming.
Exactly. And so, again, but another one of those very fast, kind of rapid shootouts, and then the gentleman outside decided to choose discretion over valor and took off. But that is another famed Arizona shootout that took place. That's crazy. The blood that runs through my crazy veins. So interesting, but again, frontier justice. You do what you can.
I mean, you can't be blamed for that. I mean, you're a Pisces.
Yes.
So.
I'm a Pisces, and you're fucking crazy.
Oh, this is not related to what we're talking about.
Weird flex, but okay.
I can't remember the exact. I think it was Geminis and Pisces and one other astrological sign. They're all bullshit. So if you, I guess we disagree on that.
Oh no, it's bullshit.
Okay, you.
Why are you looking at me and thinking that I believe in some fucking stars
That's
that are in
real,
some...
Hey,
real
we've seen
Sagittarius
the stars.
vibe you're giving me.
Actually,
real
I
Sagittarius,
almost said
actually.
Capricorn. I don't know why I said that. I'm Scorpio, okay? Thank you.
Hey, well done.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Hey, Scorpios.
I like scorpions. They're
Scorpios, we fuck like rabbits and we're really intense.
Cool. Yeah.
It's the only reason I like that stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, this fits my personality.
Readers don't know
there
what
was
I'm
a
glaring
list-
at, John, really much, or really intensely right now.
There was a list of serial killers and their astrological signs, and they nearly all lined into the same 3. And I thought that was coincidentally pretty. Not cool, but that was pretty cool. That was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius, is what it is.
Yeah. So roll music.
Wait,
I mean, you don't really need to roll music.
We don't even have... What lies? We
I like that it's just, yes, also, I should have clarified, as we started going, I was like, I didn't talk about what the format for the show was, we didn't dip a toe into anything, we're just like, you know what's going on
I've
now.
been so sleepy.
We're episode 89 now, so it doesn't really matter, everybody knows what's going on, but,
Okay, yeah, there was one lie,
of course there was one lie.
Yeah,
It was lying on the floor.
Can you just
there.
go ahead and at your friend real quick, please?
I can. I was told by a listener as they're running through, like, I really like the episodes because, you and Michael have both different kind of presentation styles, and the way that you lie is very interesting, and the way that you intersperse them. And then John, it's always like he just tosses it on last minute. It's like he forgot that he needed to lie, and then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, this statistic is wrong. I'm a genius. And so it was funny, but he's like, I like it because the shows are entertaining. and it's fun to listen to, but it's like John's, it's like he couldn't be bothered, and I was like, yep, that's minimum effort there.
Yeah, pretty much. I knew that I wanted to do this topic for a while, but I almost changed it last minute. I never really format things outside of doing what I've been very transparent about today, and I just had multiple tabs open, and I knew where my hyperlink jumps are, and I knew which paragraphs I was going to read, but most of the time in doing that, I don't have too many lies to do, so I just throw them where I can see them. Do you want to know the lie? Because you guys didn't call it through, which I think that's the point, if we're speaking about formatting.
We want to get it in the moment.
This is basically just a podcast version of bullshit.
Yes.
Is what I've been saying to people when they ask.
I agree, yeah.
Actually,
I do want to, because going with his previous, lies that he does, the only numbers that I remember him throwing out are the 30 seconds.
Oh, no, it's not numbers, dog.
Did you mess up a name? Did you say a name differently? Did you switch up a name? What is he actually?
Is it down in a well, boy?
Wyatt Earp is actually a human.
Yes,
it's Wyatt with 2 T's. You didn't pronounce the second T.
In the OK Corrals. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in my head right now. I'm scanning through the entirety of that presentation, and it's like the frontier exists. Mowbray is not an actual person.
Maybe I did okay then, because I didn't expect you to know as much as you did. So I think my lie was I'm a genius. No, I was saying the influences on the OK Corrals, like the literature. There was the book written that influenced a couple movies, and Gone with the Wind has nothing to fucking do with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
it's in the South
and slavery and burning plantations.
It's within the same 10 years as far as when the film was released.
Okay,
but it has nothing to do with it.
Well done.
Yeah,
take
that, Shane's friend.
That was a sneaky pulled right there.
You thought about it for more than 10 seconds, so obviously that does denote that you're evolving. Mm-hmm. You're becoming. We are but ants in the afterbirth.
Well, you see, when one opens 6 tabs, sometimes a 7th may appear.
I mean, I'll tell you this. The only tabs I usually see you open are on the tops of beers, so I'm happy that you're at least using a computer for something other than jacking off.
Well, the incognito tab was buried, as it usually is.
Well, you can't prove that.
Madison Ivy lives to see another day, despite her best efforts.
Excuse me, I'm going to need a moment. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
Died in a car crash.
So, who got beat to death with a dildo? My God. Well, thank you for sticking around today, kids, because that was an interesting run. We didn't give you any context to who we are, what we do, but I assume that if this is your first time in, you're gonna hate us and never come back. Yeah. But if you're familiar with the format, this was fun.
You're gonna hate us and never come back.
We're happy to have you here. I'm gonna have to just roll through this here. So if you are keen on following us in the future, you can check us out on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Podcast Addict, Spotify, etc. And then please give us a like and a follow. Give us a review if you can. Tell us that we're doing a good job, and if you appreciate John's genius lies. You can check us out on Instagram at Disinformed Podcast. Facebook is facebook.com/disinformedpodcast, and Twitter at disinformedpod, which you may or may not have noticed is a lie, because every single time I've said it, it's Disinformed Podcast across the board. That's not accurate. Our Twitter handle is in Disinformed Pod, because you can't go over 15 characters for a username on Twitter. So now you're going to have to check us out. And the Twitter is going to be important, because that is where we're going to start posting all of our happy little,
accidents.
Well, it's all of our ejaculates that we cannot clean up with Bootbox.
Yee-Haw Juice.
Yes. But that's where we're going to put the polls up, so you can vote on topics that we can research and do in the future when we start integrating that, if we are at a loss for things for John to look up at the last minute.
If anybody needs 6 tabs.
Good old
of information.
Johnny Six Tabs. That is your new frontier name. And it's going to be beautiful. But thank you very much for being here this week, ladies and germaphobes. We appreciate you running through. I want to give another shout out again to our sponsor, Bootbox. If you're looking to quit crapping on your colon, go to poopshoot.com, enter your offer code IDIOT at checkout, and get 15% off of your monthly Bootbox subscription. I personally chose that as our handle, by the way, for how you have to identify. I was like, I'm not doing Disinformed Pod. That's long. I was like, IDIOT. Go with IDIOT. That's the way to go.
Yeah. Rings bell. It flows.
Yeah, so get it in the poop shoot, kids. Quit crapping on your colon. Yeah. So that is going to be it for us this week from the Disinformed Podcast, ladies and germaphobes. I am Shane.
I'm John.
And I'm Michael.
Thank you so much, kids. Thanks for coming. Don't worry. We'll clean it up with guns.